Tuia, ui a mai rā koutou tātou I roto I tēnei pō, tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou. Kia ora everybody, Che Wilson here from Te Pai Pai Waho, connecting to you tonight through a number of different platforms, and it's number 3, kaupapa number 3, season 9, and the kaupapa is tikanga in different places, and the place I'm choosing tonight is Te ARAWA, and the broader rohe of Te ARAWA. Last week we spoke about Te Tautokero, and the week before we spoke about home, the Wanganui area. Just a note before we get into things, I'm not from Te ARAWA. Well, I'm from Te Whare, but generically I'm not Te ARAWA, so this is me as a visitor sharing some of the things that you should keep an eye out for so that you know what you're doing when you're in Te ARAWA. Nā reira, e mi ana kia koutou o tira ki tātou, e tangi ana ki ngā mate, Auntie Rayleigh, e moe. Wakau ki atu koe ki te iwi nui, ki te kōpua papatua nuku I te rangi nei, e moe, e oki. Me te tangi tonu ki ngā mate. Notice there are a heap of hura kōhatu all around the country. Nā reira e wiki, Esther, Royce, koutou mā, e moe, e oki. And a big mihi to KJ and the whānau that run Hoop Nation. Tēnā koutou, love going to Hoop Nation, and just seeing all of this positiveness with all our people who are in Te Biwa being the best that they can be. Just amazing. Got a chance to also climb up Mawao. So yeah, thanks Nooms. Ka te ake. Let's get into it. So, I suppose the first thing is, kia ora Francine, yes. The first thing is that when we talk about Te ARAWA and the way that things are run on a Te ARAWA marae, you have tuatutu mai or tauutuutu is the general run of things there. At home we have paeke. Paeke is where the home side speak, then the visitors speak. Whereas in Te ARAWA, tuatutu mai is where home visitors alternate and finishes with the home. And there are variations of tuatutu mai. Sometimes it's speaker for speaker, and that's very common in the Rotorua, in the Lakes District. Well, in the Rotorua part of Te ARAWA. Tū Wharetoa, not as strict. They will start and they will finish, but not as strict. But in Te ARAWA, depending on the kaupapa, then you'll get a lot more of the strictness around one for one, and then finishing with the home side. So it's really important to know that. As I've been taught, paeke and tuatutu mai both come from warfare tactics. Paeke is where you then just go on and you raid the village. Paeke, ka eke a te pā, and you just go on and it's all out. Taututu or tuatutu mai is where you get through, and then to save everybody, you then send your best ones out to go one-on-one. And so, as I was taught, that's the origin. I have heard other people say other things than kei a koutou tēnā, but just sharing a bit of what my uncles taught me about the difference between paeke and tuatutu mai. Other than that, and when you're in Tū Wharetoa, it's pretty straightforward, and there are subtle differences, but if you're not used to it, you'll only you'll just see it all as the same. One thing I did experience once is that pre-sunset, some marae won't pōhiri if you arrive at a certain time when the birds start to chime down, and in others they will do it until it's actually dark. So it's good just to know that sometimes you might get welcome. If you arrive late in the afternoon, that you might not get a pōhiri. I know myself in my own area at home in the mountain, we have been doing pōhiri at night since probably the 1980s, the early 1980s, and one of the kōrero that the aunties shared and the nannies shared was o nā ngā raiti te pō i o ka awatea. And in addition to that, because our kuia will pōhiri o karanga during the dawn ceremonies, which is also during dark time. So I suppose it's a bit easier to transition. But it's important to note that you may go to a place where they don't pōhiri after a certain time. Mindful though that if people set pōhiri times to whakaeke onto a marae these days, especially as a result of COVID, then people tend to just stick to that. So just keep an eye. When you're going into the Rotorua district, still tuatutu mai, you will notice that shoes will be worn inside by the men, and the seating will be arranged differently. So men in one place, women in the other place. And you, when you're in that area, you just respect them. I know myself, I don't leave my shoes on, even though I'm allowed to. I just keep to my own tikanga there. Another point that I've noticed, especially more in the Rotorua part, not necessarily at home or in Tūwharetoa, is that when you go in hariru, men will go to the men and the women will go to the women. You also see this in Mātātua, but they don't stop you from going around, because in my tribe, we go to the paipai and then we meet and we go to everybody else. We go into the tent, etc. And you just work it out. And some people are very used to it, some people aren't. I think the most important thing is if somebody comes out as a keka or as a takawainga, to ask them, how do things go? Ask them, is there anything that you need to know about hongi, about hariru, and also the laying of the koha. And as I've witnessed it, 9 times out of 10, koha is laid down in front of everybody. I have noticed, though, in some parts of Te Arawa where the whānau pani will pick up the koha. And I know at home, we tend to try not to let the whānau pani do anything. And the reason for that at home is because it's our job to show our love to them, and then when we lose somebody, their job to show love to us, which doesn't always happen these days with work, commitments, connection or disconnection, but is why it's really important for each whānau to have the 5 or 6 Ks that I've talked about in the past. Kai karanga, kai kōrero, kai waiata, kai kuki, kai kohi kai, and kai karakia. And the reason for that is if each whānau, and I mean the broader whānau, if each whānau had that, then it's important to then reciprocate. Then you don't have a paipai that moves. And paipais move today because of necessity, but if each whānau was able to strengthen themselves so that we can then support each other, it makes it easier. Handed in the hariru. Yes, there's a comment there, and I'll just show that. Here it is. There's a comment here, and so depending on where it is, you can lay the koha on the marae, or you can kōkohu it. And kōkohu, some say kōkohu, we say kōkohu, others say kōkuhu. And when you kokohu, that's when you put it in the hand. And even in Honganui, I know if I'm going onto a marae where it's just my whānau and I'm close to that marae, I won't lay it on the marae. I will just go hand it over and kokohu when I go and hariru. And so each place is different, and you just ask. It's better to ask rather than getting a growling or offending later. And I just ask as I'm speaking, as I wrap up things. And they'll motion to you or they'll say it to you. So another thing that you'll find is waiata will vary in the different places. And one thing I love about Te Arawa is that they have their pōkeka. And their pōkeka are just stunning. And so I really enjoy when I am in Te Arawa listening to the pōkeka and even their pātere are quite beautiful too. So remember, as you go to different places, there'll be different things that to look out for. But that's just a few things on my experiences when I've been to Te Arawa, and hopefully these kōrero are being helpful. Ka tiake, e mihi atu ana kia koutou, o tira ki tātou katoa i roto i tēnei pō. Oh, hey Bent, kia ora bro. Nui te aroa kia koe. Tēnā koutou, rire au, pai mā rire. Taongo ki te wareware, Nathaniel e moe. Kia ora tātou.